all of that obvious lies, and anybody who actually works for a living with a 401k, they know that. But don't worry, Joe assured us all that his destruction of America is not done yet. He still wants to finish the job.
I signed a bipartisan bill to cut shipping costs by 90%, helping American farmers, businessmen, and consumers. Let's finish the job.
Let's not. Well, we'll see if he can actually finish the job and make it all the way to 2024. Here with an exclusive reaction to Biden's State of the Union address is Trump 2020 senior advisor Lara Trump. Lara, welcome. It's so great to have you on the program tonight. You know, I see that the ratings have come in from the State of the Union address last night. A lot fewer people watching compared to last year, and certainly about half compared to Trump's State of the Union back in 2018. What were some of your takeaways having to watch that and the lies that he told the American people last night?
Yeah, I think you got it right, having to watch it, because no one wanted to watch this. I mean, you just pointed out the ratings. Turns out no one likes to be shouted out for 73 minutes like we had last night with Joe Biden. And, you know, I think the bar was obviously very low at this point. I think if Joe Biden actually strings two coherent sentences together, even on a teleprompter, he gets applauded by people. But unfortunately for America, most of what he said was inaccurate. It was filled with lies. You saw the reactions, especially from Republicans in the audience, when he tried to lie about Republicans wanting to get rid of Social Security and Medicare, trying to claim he made all of these jobs come to fruition, trying to claim that America is in great shape under the Biden administration. If by finish the job, he means absolutely do in our country and put the final nail in the coffin of America, I think that's the sense that most Americans got from Joe Biden last night. And then I think the most offensive part was that he didn't really talk about the major concerns of the American people. The fact that inflation is still, something people can't deal with on a day-to-day basis. Gas prices are still high. He brushed over the southern border where you have fentanyl pouring in, killing 100,000 Americans a year, the #1 killer of our youth in this country. No mention of crime that is skyrocketing, and certainly did not feel like he was going to hold China to task for sending a spy balloon all the way across our entire country, like we saw happen last week. So I don't think much confidence was instilled in people. I think people walked away from that. If you could make it through the whole 73 minutes, feeling uninspired and, quite frankly, frightened for the future of our country. I guess, Jen, the only good news is that more people today are talking about the very romantic kiss shared between the second gentleman and the first lady.
Yeah, man, thank goodness for at least some of those moments. You had to have something to kind of chuckle about, because, you know, it was such an insult, I think, last night, Lara, watching that. So many Americans going through tough times as a result of Biden's policies. And you talk about the moments where Republicans audibly pushed back. And I think so much of that echoed what people were saying at home, those that watched, you know, yelling at their TVs. That's a lie. That's not what's going on in this country. And it was, you know, I thought somewhat refreshing to see people say, you know what, that's not right. You're lying, Joe Biden. And one of the items you mentioned, Social Security, Medicare, your father-in-law, he's been standing up for seniors. He's, you know, said, you know, to Republicans, obviously protect Medicare and Social Security. And Biden mentioned, he said, for anyone with doubts to contact his office for the proposal. One of our producers contacted the White House today. They refused to give us any information, claiming that Biden only meant that for members of Congress. Your reaction to this, to these lies that the Republicans are trying to do away with Social Security and Medicare, and something that your father-in-law has you know, supported?
Yeah, well, and I mean, it's true. Not only has he supported it, but you ask any Republican out there, and they do as well. Look, you pay into this stuff starting with your first paycheck here in the United States of America. Of course, that is something that should be afforded to all Americans. Our seniors obviously deserve to get the Social Security and Medicare. But I think what you have here with Joe Biden and the Democrats is that they have done such an abysmal job with this country, and they are truly running our country into the ground in such a way that people can't unsee it. You can't look the other way because it is in your face every single day. So I guess the hope last night was that maybe they throw something against the wall, even lie after lie, and see if it sticks. Because, Jen, you and I both know that the mainstream media very often does not hold Joe Biden or any Democrat, for that matter, accountable for the lies that they tell. And that was a flat out lie. It was an insult. It was absolutely absurd. And you heard the reaction last night from the audience. Every Republican was shouting at Joe Biden over that one.
Yeah, unbelievable. And also to your point, unbelievable that he didn't touch on the border crisis. If anything, it's one thing that he wants to let everybody into this country, but another, he's not even focused on something that's killing so many of our young people with the fentanyl that's coming into this country. You talked about the mainstream media, Lara, and this was interesting. I saw today that some of their left-leaning polls, they're now putting Trump ahead of Biden. This is surprising coming from them in a hypothetical 2024 rematch. This is from ABC News and the Washington Post. Of all outlets, it shows Trump defeating Biden by 4 percentage points. Do you believe this is the matchup we'll be seeing in 2024?
I mean, I quite frankly find it very hard to believe that Joe Biden is going to seek a second term. Now, he says that that is the case, but what that polling showed is even those people who were willing to overlook the fact that Joe Biden campaigned out of his basement and had very questionable mental acuity even in 2020 and voted for him then are probably not willing to vote for him now. They have seen the mess he is made of things. He is not just an embarrassment to himself and their party, the Democrat Party, but unfortunately, as our president, he's an embarrassment to the United States of America. And I think what people have very clearly learned over the past 2 years, and man, it's been a tough one to learn, is that you're not voting based on someone's personality. You're voting based on who the best person is to get the job done. Obviously, Joe Biden has got to go. But look, I hope that's the matchup because, gosh, that should be an easy win in 2024. We should hope so, right?
Oh, yeah, he's certainly making it easy for whoever, is going up against him. Obviously, I think it's going to be President Trump. But let me ask you this. What was really fascinating and refreshing to watch was Sarah Huckabee Sanders, her rebuttal to Biden's State of the Union speech. She talked about being 40 years old, youngest governor of Arkansas, Biden being 80 years old. Lara, you're obviously young. You're somebody that's, talked about potentially running for office at one point or another. Where do you think the future of the GOP is headed at this point?
Well, I think you saw it last night. Look, what an incredible speech Sarah Huckabee Sanders gave, and what a contrast to Joe Biden's speech where he stumbled over a lot, couldn't remember what Chuck Schumer's title was in the very beginning, was kind of incoherent at times. She was so concise in her message and so articulate with the way she delivered that message. I thought her best line was when she said it is no longer left versus right, but normal versus crazy, because that is what we're dealing with in America right now. I think she is a shining star, and I think we should look forward to more young women holding up the Republican Party, just like you saw from Sarah Sanders last night. What a great moment for her.
Yeah, and that'll be so great to see more young people getting into the Republican Party, running for office. I got to ask you about this, Lara, too, because if anybody knows censorship, it's certainly your family. You've dealt with so much of it over the past few years. Newsmax, unfortunately, being targeted right now by DirecTV, AT&T. And I'm really curious, how do you think Trump would be handling this situation, what we've seen with OAN, what we've seen with Newsmax, if he were president right now?
Well, he's been very clear that he believes in everyone's First Amendment right, their freedom of speech. And it certainly feels like right now what is happening to Newsmax, what's happened to OAN, what happens to conservatives every single day. Heck, right now, I'm pretty clearly being shadow banned on Instagram and Facebook. But he would stand up in the face of that. And I think, you have to make sure that we do not let our First Amendment slip through the cracks, because once that is gone, then we no longer have a country. And he's been very clear on his stance with that. It's funny that you haven't heard anything about it from the Biden administration. Obviously, they don't very much care if you have your freedom of speech, as long as they get to do to you what they deem proper on their terms. But I think it's such a shame to see what's happening. It's dystopian, it is horrific, and it is completely un-American what has happened to Newsmax, OAN, and conservatives across the board in this country.
Well, Lara Trump, we appreciate you taking time to be on with us this evening. Got to get you back here more often. So good to see you. And thank you again for taking time.
You got it. Thanks a lot.